Published 2045 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 28th of September 2018, updated 2317 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 28th of September 2018. Donald Trump has belittled the FBI investigation into Judge Brett Kavanaugh just hours after ordering it. The president tweeted at 8:30 p.m., "Just started, tonight, our 7th FBI investigation of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. He will someday be recognized as a truly great justice of the United States Supreme Court. Kavanaugh will be investigated by the FBI over allegations he sexually assaulted Christine Ford after a sensational twist Friday in the Senate as two key Republicans said their votes for him depended on a probe." Trump ordered the supplemental investigation into his Supreme Court nominee at 5 p.m. on Friday, with the White House saying it must be limited in scope, while Senate Republicans said it would take up to a week. In just a few days, Trump has jumped between calling the sexual assault allegations a con job, Ford a credible witness, and on Friday night emphasizing that this is the 7th FBI investigation of Kavanaugh and insisting he will be the next justice of the Supreme Court. The announcement from the White House came after a day of extraordinary drama, prompted by Jeff Flake, the moderate Republican. President Trump ordered the supplemental investigation into his Supreme Court nominee at 5 p.m. on Friday. He is pictured at the White House on Friday. The president tweeted at 8:30 p.m., "Just started, tonight, our 7th FBI investigation of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. He will someday be recognized as a truly great justice of the United States Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh, left, will be investigated by the FBI over allegations he sexually assaulted Christine Ford, right, key moment, a woman who said she is a survivor of a sexual assault, confronts Republican Senator from Arizona Jeff Flake, in an elevator after Flake announced that he vote to confirm Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh in the Russell Senate Office Building in Washington. Female members of Congress stand in protest behind seated supporters of Brett Kavanaugh as members of the Senate Judiciary Committee meet to vote on his nomination. The women standing were warned by U.S. Capitol Police they would be forced to leave the room if they continued to stand. At 9:30 a.m. he announced he would vote for Kavanaugh, then a minute later walked into a Senate elevator and was confronted by two protesters who told him they were sex abuse victims who wanted him to vote no. At 1:30 p.m. Senate Judiciary Committee vote was delayed as Flake spent time with Democrats, and then a dramatic deal unfolded. Flake voted Kavanaugh through the Senate Judiciary Committee in return for asking for the probe. John Cornyn, the second most senior Republican in the Senate, said the investigation would happen and take up to a week. The Senate Judiciary Committee formally asked for the FBI probe into current credible allegations against Kavanaugh on Friday afternoon, after voting for Kavanaugh to go to a full-floor vote with Flake's caveat. The phrase still fails to make clear whether all three women who have publicly accused Kavanaugh of sexual assault, Ford, Debbie Ramirez, and Julie Swetnick, will have their claims investigated. The supplemental FBI background investigation would be limited to current credible allegations against the nominee and must be completed no later than 1 week from today, according to the committee. Mark Judge L., Kavanaugh's high school friend, pictured in Kavanaugh's yearbook, who Ford alleges took part in the attack, said that he would cooperate with any law enforcement agency that investigates confidential. The phrase current credible allegations is language Republicans insisted on to keep at bay new accusations they feared may come out of the woodwork. Leaders appeared to be deliberately vague about the guidance being given to the FBI. Asked by DailyMail.com Friday what counted as credible allegations to be investigated, Sen. John Cornyn didn't respond as he entered his Senate office. Here's how Jeff Flake's day of drama unfolded. 9:30 a.m. Jeff Flake's office releases a statement announcing he will vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. 9:31 a.m. Cameras capture Flake cornered in an elevator as two female protesters urges him to vote no and tell him they are sex abuse victims. Anna Maria Aguila tells him, "You have children in your family. Think about them." The lengthy confrontation goes on with the other woman, recent college graduate Maria Gallagher, telling him, "I was sexually assaulted and nobody believed me. You're telling all women that they don't matter. 9:50 a.m. As senators gather, Flake appears downcast. 10 a.m. 4 Democratic senators walk out in protest when a motion to subpoena Mark Judge is voted down. 12:16 p.m. Flake, who turned down the chance to speak, walks out of the committee room with Chris Coons, the Delaware Democrat with whom he is close friend. 1:30 p.m. the time of the scheduled vote, but it is clear something is happening behind the scenes, with Flake and most of the Democrats not present. 1:49 p.m. the committee is seated in full. 1:51 p.m. committee chairman Charles Grassley says he will let Flake speak. Flake says he will vote yes if there is to be an FBI investigation. 1:53 p.m. the committee votes 11-10 to send Kavanaugh to the floor for a full investigation. 2:10 p.m. at the White House, Trump says he will do whatever the Senate decide to do. 2:30 p.m. Lindsey Graham says on CNN, somebody's got to explain this to Trump. So I guess that will be my job. 3:38 p.m. John Cornyn, the Senate's second most powerful Republican, says there will be a delay of up to a week to allow a fresh background check. 4:28 p.m. Senate Judiciary Committee formally asks for FBI probe of current, credible allegations. 5:04 p.m. The White House announces a supplemental investigation which must be limited in scope. Cornyn confirmed the stunning development just hours after Senate Judiciary panel members had used speeches to denounce the idea of bringing in the FBI at this stage. The Republicans' hand was forced by a power play undertaken by holdout Republican senators who the leadership needs to try to install President Trump's nominee on the high court. And Mark Judge, Kavanaugh's high school friend who Ford alleges took part in the attack, said that he would cooperate with any law enforcement agency that investigates confidentially. He had claimed this week that he had depression and anxiety, so did not want to testify in public, and was then Friday morning revealed to be available for public speaking engagements, in one of the more farcical turns of the Kavanaugh saga. Judge's only participation so far has been in the form of a brief letter signed by his lawyer and a letter carrying his own signature. He was spotted at a Delaware Beach parking lot as allegations against Kavanaugh exploded. The plan to quickly patch together an FBI investigation came after the Senate Judiciary Committee dramatically voted to advance the nomination of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, but only after a deal involving Sen. Jeff Flake, who demanded a one-week FBI probe of the nominee's background. Arizona Sen. Jeff Flake, who had announced just Friday morning he would vote to confirm Kavanaugh, told committee colleagues he would vote to advance the bill, but only after saying there should be a week for an FBI investigation. He told colleagues he had the support of at least two key votes, Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski and Democrat Joe Manchin. The position of the third moderate Republican, Lisa Collins, was unknown. On their own, Flake and Murkowski would be enough to torpedo Kavanaugh's nomination, while Manchin, a Democrat whose state, West Virginia, voted for Donald Trump by 42 points, is the only Democrat to whom Republican leaders could have turned to force Kavanaugh through. Key senators were still learning the details of the agreement, but Flake and holdouts appeared to have the leverage to enforce it. And panel chair Sen. Charles Grassley was caught on a hot mic describing how it would hold together. At the White House, Trump was questioned just as the deal came together. Well after Kavanaugh was voted through with the caveat, Republicans gathered in Mitch McConnell's office to work out what to do next. Trump, who was in the Oval Office, spoke publicly of Christine Ford for the first time since her dramatic and emotional testimony in which she said Kavanaugh tried to rape her, saying, "I thought her testimony was very compelling, and she looks like a very fine woman to me." A very fine woman, Deborah Katz, Ford's lawyer said. A thorough FBI investigation is critical to developing all the relevant facts. No artificial limits as to time or scope should be imposed on this investigation. The FBI move came in a sudden and dramatic change of plan for the Senate Judiciary Committee, and after Flake was caught in an elevator by two women who said they were victims of sexual abuse. When they first met this morning, a vote was scheduled for 10:30 a.m., but then put off until 1:30 p.m. to allow senators to have their say. Just after that, 4 Democrats walked out, and when it reached Flake's turn to speak, he demurred. The senators were supposed to sit in the room for the vote by 1:30 p.m. But as that time came and went, it became clear that backroom talks were going on. Finally, Grassley gavelled in the committee, and started with a statement that he was deferring to Flake, who outlined how he would vote to send Kavanaugh's nomination to the full Senate if there was a week-long FBI probe. Amid confusion, Kavanaugh's nomination was voted through, and then when Grassley adjourned the meeting, an open microphone caught Dianne Feinstein, the ranking Democrat, asking if there was actually a deal. "This is all a gentleman and women's agreement," Grassley told her on the hot mic. "But I'm committed," he added, before being cut off. The maneuvering indicates Senate Republicans don't yet have the votes to confirm Kavanaugh. Sen. Jeff Koons of Delaware called it a one-week pause and said he was hopeful a report would be delivered and the committee could ask questions of Bureau agents. He said there was enough doubt raised by Ford's testimony that further investigation was justified. President Trump has ordered the FBI to conduct a limited, supplemental investigation into sexual assault allegations against Judge Brett Kavanaugh, but questions remain about the scope of the probe and whether it will look into additional assault claims from two women that emerged this week. Senate Judiciary Committee Republicans agreed to the investigation after a last-minute demand by Senator Jeff Flake, RS, forced the committee's hand on Friday. Both the White House and the Senate Judiciary Committee stressed that the investigation would be limited and must be completed by next Friday. The supplemental FBI background investigation would be limited to current credible allegations against the nominee and must be completed no later than 1 week from today, said the Senate Judiciary Committee in a statement. The investigation, which follows a prior FBI background check into Kavanaugh, will look into allegations from Christine Ford that he sexually assaulted her during a party in high school. It is unclear whether the FBI will also examine claims from two other accusers, Kavanaugh's Yale classmate Deborah Ramirez and a former Maryland resident named Julie Swetnick. Ramirez has accused Kavanaugh of putting his genitals near her face while she was intoxicated on the floor at a college dorm party. Swetnick, who is being represented by Stormy Daniels' attorney Michael Avenatti, claims she witnessed Kavanaugh and his high school friend Mark Judge drugging girls' drinks and participating in group rape attacks at parties. Kavanaugh has denied the allegations. A spokesperson for the Senate Judiciary Committee did not immediately respond to requests to clarify the term current credible allegations. Sen. John Cornyn, RTX, also declined to comment when asked by DailyMail.com. Flake, who forced the committee to agree to the investigation after telling Republican colleagues that it is the only way he will vote for Kavanaugh's confirmation, suggested to NPR on Friday that the decision of which allegations to investigate will be left to the FBI. Well, left it to the FBI. "I am assuming that the Ford allegations are there, and maybe Ramirez. But Avenatti, I don't know, but that's their call." The FBI investigation would be a supplemental to the previous background check it conducted on Kavanaugh as it does for all Supreme Court nominees. The background investigation has been based out of the FBI Washington office. The FBI will not conduct a criminal investigation because the charges against Kavanaugh do not relate to any federal crimes. Because of this, the Bureau will not make a determination on Kavanaugh's guilt or innocence. The FBI will submit a report to the White House and the Senate Judiciary Committee when the examination is complete. The scope of the investigation, which will look into claims dating back 36 years, is unusual for an FBI background check. Typically, the Bureau focuses on recent events from the past decade of the nominee's life, or documented criminal or legal charges against the individual. However, the probe could turn up individuals who are able to corroborate the claims from Ford, Ramirez or Swetnick. So far, the witnesses named by the accusers have said they don't remember the incidents taking place. The FBI will also be able to talk to potential witnesses who have not spoken directly to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Mark Judge, a high school classmate of Kavanaugh's who Ford claims was in the room while she was sexually assaulted, has agreed to cooperate with the FBI. Judge has previously declined to testify to the committee but submitted a sworn statement saying he does not remember any incident like the one described by Ford. Two other witnesses who Ford claims were at the party, P.J. Smythe and Leland Kaiser, could also be interviewed by the FBI. Both Smythe and Kaiser have said in statements into the Senate Judiciary Committee that they do not recall the event described by Ford. Although the FBI will have just a week to investigate the allegations, this time frame is not out of step with prior similar investigations. During Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings in 1991, the FBI took 3 days to investigate sexual harassment allegations leveled against him by law professor Anita Hill. Thomas was ultimately confirmed to the Supreme Court. ABC News contributor and former FBI Special Agent in Charge Steve Gomez said the FBI is likely organizing their resources to ensure that every field office and every agent is available to conduct the investigation within a week. He defined the phrase current credible allegations as any kind of allegation where there are witnesses that can be interviewed and any kind of information that can be gathered to determine whether the allegations are true or false. Senate Judiciary Committee member Senator Jeff Flake, RSC, speaks with colleagues after a hearing on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. on September 28, 2018, on the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. Kavanaugh's contentious Supreme Court nomination will be put to an initial vote Friday, the day after a dramatic Senate hearing saw the judge furiously fight back against sexual assault allegations recounted in harrowing detail by his accuser. Reporters crowd senators including Sen. Amy Klobuchar, D-Min, right, at the conclusion of a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. Senate Judiciary Committee member Amy Klobuchar, DMNC, reacts during a hearing on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. on September 28, 2018, on the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Republicans had grim faces before the start of the meeting. They had argued vigorously against the need for an FBI inquiry of sexual assault allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. Flake said he would only be comfortable moving the nomination on the floor until such a probe had occurred. "We owe them due diligence," he said. Flake helped broker the deal after getting dramatically confronted by activists through the propped open door of a Senate elevator. Two women told Flake they had suffered sexual assault and that he was ignoring their and other women's stories by his vote. The retiring Republican was virtually trapped in an elevator while getting lambasted on live television during the experience. Friday's dramatic announcement of an FBI investigation comes at a time of unparalleled scrutiny on the agency, and hostility towards its former leadership from Donald Trump himself. Here are the key questions which have still to be answered on how the probe will operate. What does current, credible allegations mean? Are the allegations of Debbie Ramirez and Julie Swetnick included? Who in the Department of Justice will oversee the investigation? Which FBI field office will be in charge of it? Who will be the lead agent? How many agents will be detailed and from which specialized teams? If witnesses decline to cooperate, will they be subpoenaed? Will the findings of the report be made public? Immediately after the hearing, Flake and Sen. Dianne Feinstein could be seen in Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's Capitol office. Sen. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska said she backs Flake's delay. The Washington Post reported, Trump said he found Christine Ford's testimony compelling, even as he cheered his nominee, who directly contradicted her allegations that he sexually assaulted her at a party decades ago. "I thought her testimony was very compelling, and she looks like a very fine woman to me. A very fine woman," Trump said, "and I thought that Brett's testimony likewise was really something that I haven't seen before. It was incredible. It was an incredible moment, I think, in the history of our country. But certainly she was a very credible witness. She was very good in many respects, and I think that, I don't know if this is going to continue onward or are we going to get a vote." Trump continued, "But again, I'm here so I'm not out there watching because I can't be, out of great respect. Although maybe we'll go watch together. Well, watch together, but I think it will work out very well for the country. I just want it to work out well for the country. If it happens, I'm happy," the president concluded. Murkowski had also expressed interest in having the FBI be involved. However, the Bureau is part of the executive branch, meaning any deal requires White House buy-in. I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote for up to but not more than 1 week, he said. Said Democratic Sen. Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota said, "You can do a lot if you have the whole FBI looking into things in 1 week," CNN reported. Before the dramatic turn of events, Republicans had planned for a procedural vote as early as Saturday afternoon to speed the nomination to the Senate floor. Panel Republicans spent much of the day vociferously arguing against the need for more FBI investigation. Republicans were caught off guard and revealed in comments they did not know the substance of the deal. Republicans, including Trump backer Lindsey Graham, said there was nothing to be learned from further FBI investigation. Kavanaugh and Republicans have repeatedly argued that Kavanaugh has already been through 6 background checks, but the FBI would have had no way to know about the assault allegations that leapt to center stage as the nomination steamed toward the floor. It said it was important to show members have bent over backwards to do due diligence. The panel then quickly took a vote. The nominee will be reported to the floor, said panel chair Charles Grassley. The nomination advanced on an 11-10 party-line vote after a day of debate filled with recriminations. Republican members looked on with grim faces as Flake announced his decision to join a key Democratic demand. Watching, female Democratic members of Congress had watched the start of the Senate Judiciary Committee's hearing and then walked out when 4 senators did. Sen. Flake confers with Democratic Senators Leahy and Coons while leaving a Senate Judiciary Committee meeting. Flake was crucial in getting the committee to agree to an additional week of investigations into accusations of sexual assault against Kavanaugh before the full Senate votes. Trump backer Senator Lindsey Graham has a discreet word with Senator Flake. Graham had said there was nothing to be learned from further FBI investigation. Democrats, including Sen. Kamala Harris of California, stormed out of the hearing room as the Judiciary Committee prepared to vote out Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. "I have been speaking with a number of people on the other side. I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote for up to but not more than 1 week in order to let the FBI do investigation, limited in time and scope to the current allegations that are there," said Flake. Speaking at the top of a hearing, said Flake, "I will vote to advance the bill to the floor with that understanding. And I've spoken to a few other members on my side of the aisle that may be supported as well." He said, "It all comes hours after Kavanaugh testified during an emotional Judiciary panel hearing, after accuser Christine Blasey Ford delivered testimony accusing him of a decades-old sexual assault. Kavanaugh issued his own tearful and emotional denial, then attacked panel Democrats of being part of a conspiracy to bring his nomination down. Democrats, outnumbered on a committee and helpless to stop the pace of the nomination, inveighed against Kavanaugh's testimony, where he accused Democrats of running a search and destroy mission against him. "We are an arm and a very weak arm of the Trump White House," complained Democratic Sen. Patrick Leahy of Vermont, who stayed behind inside the hearing room. Flake listens during a meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee shortly after announcing his decision. Aggressive and belligerent. Dianne Feinstein attacks Kavanaugh. "This is someone who was aggressive and belligerent," Feinstein, the senior panel Democrat, said at the hearing. "In the 25 years on this committee, I have never seen a nominee for any position behave in that manner. Judge Kavanaugh used as much political rhetoric as my Republican colleagues. And, what's more, he went on the attack," she said. "I have never seen a nominee for any position behave in that manner," Feinstein said, defending herself against charges that she or her staff were involved in the leak of Ford's allegations, something she denied at Thursday's hearing. Furious Democrats walked out of the hearing while it was still ongoing, delivering angry denunciations of the majority and its decision to sprint ahead. Among those walking out were Sens. Richard Blumenthal, Kamala Harris, Mazie Hirono, and Sheldon Whitehouse. The protest created a televised split screen, while senior panel Republicans sang Kavanaugh's statements in prepared statements, while Democrats delivered finger-pointing attacks on the majority outside. Republican senators say the Judiciary Committee plans to vote Friday morning on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court. Volunteers in the community, said senior Republican Orrin Hatch of Utah, while Democrats fumed outside the room. I'm sure a lot of people are irritated right now and I'll let express that irritation, said Sen. Charles Grassley of Iowa, the committee chairman. We are an arm and a very weak arm of the Trump White House, complained Democratic Sen. Patrick Leahy of Vermont, Harris tweeted, setting a vote on Kavanaugh less than 24 hours after yesterday's testimony shows what a sham this process has been. I just refused to vote and walked out. During the final hours before the Friday afternoon vote, senators took turns saying their piece. Lindsey Graham, I will not shut you up. After an explosive intervention on Thursday, Lindsey Graham, the South Carolina Republican, doubled down. I know I'm a single white male from South Carolina, and I'm told I should shut up, but I will not shut up, if that's okay. Because I got here the same way anyone else did, he said. I'm going to vote yes, and I'm going to tell his two daughters that I'm proud of your dad, and I really, really believe he's a good man. And I'm going to tell Dr. Ford I am sorry you had to go through this, too, he added. I do believe something happened to her. I don't know when and where, but at WASNT Brett Kavanaugh, Graham called the allegations against Kavanaugh a case which would be impossible to prosecute in Maryland or anywhere else, saying it wouldn't get out of the batter's box, and he called the handling of the allegations the beginning of a process that will tear this country apart. And if I am chairman next year, if we keep the majority and Senator Grassley moves over, I'm going to remember this, he added. If you try to destroy somebody you will not get away with it. Republican John Cornyn, right not to call Mark Judges in. John Cornyn of Texas defended the decision not to call Mark Judge to testify. He submitted his statement under penalty of felony, said Cornyn. He admits to being a recovering alcoholic as well as a cancer survivor. He said he struggles with depression and anxiety, so much that he avoids public speaking. And our colleagues across the aisle believe that the appropriate course of conduct is to drag Mr. Judge into this circus-like atmosphere and to subject his battle with alcoholism and addiction to public investigation and scrutiny and ridicule. That is cruel, that is reckless. That is indecent, said Cornyn. Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse, partisan screed Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse brought up his interrogation of Kavanaugh about his high school yearbook entry, suggesting the nominee provided less than truthful explanations. His partisan screed yesterday was telling, said Whitehouse. As to yesterday, let me be frank. I believe Dr. Ford. I may be wrong, but I believed her. And I believe Kavanaugh dodged and dissembled, ranted and raved, filibustered and prevaricated. I did not find him credible. I don't believe Boof is flatulence, I don't believe the Devil's Triangle is a drinking game, and I don't believe calling yourself a girl's alumnus is being her friend. And I think drinking till you Ralph or fall out of the bus or don't remember the game or need to piece together your memory the next day is more consistent with Dr. Ford's and others' testimony than his own. Whitehouse said, if Dr. Ford's testimony is true, I hope we can all agree Kavanaugh has no business on the court, and I for one believed her. But set aside my own belief, as a prosecutor, I am horrified at what the committee has done. Terminating the FBI background investigation before these new allegations were even considered. Doing partisan interviews by partisan staffers declaredly determined to force the nominee through, letting Kavanaugh's alleged accomplice in the assault, the guy in the room with him when it happened, get away with a lawyer's letter and no testimony, no cross-examination. Whitehouse added, the news comes after a nearly 8-hour day that saw both Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh take the stand in what was an emotional hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee. U.S. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, D.R., holds up a letter from Mark Judge, longtime friend of U.S. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, as members of the Judiciary Committee meet to vote on the nomination of Kavanaugh to be a U.S. Supreme Court Associate Justice on Capitol Hill in Washington, U.S., September 28, 2018. Jeff Flake, I will vote for Kavanaugh. Before he issued key caveat, Flake issued a definitive statement after leaving both sides guessing with his vague speech. At Thursday's tense hearing, after hearing more than 30 hours of testimony from Judge Kavanaugh earlier this month, I was prepared to support his nomination based on his view of the law and his record as a judge. In fact, I commented at the time that had he been nominated in another era, he would have likely received 90 votes, Flake said. He then referenced Ford's allegations of sexual assault. When Dr. Ford's allegations against Judge Kavanaugh surfaced 2 weeks ago, I insisted that she be allowed to testify before the committee moved to a vote. Yesterday, we heard compelling testimony from Dr. Ford, as well as a persuasive response from Judge Kavanaugh, Flake said. I wish that I could express the confidence that some of my colleagues have conveyed about what either did or did not happen in the early 1980s, but I left the hearing yesterday with as much doubt as certainty. What I do know is that our system of justice affords a presumption of innocence to the accused, absent corroborating evidence. That is what binds us to the rule of law. While some may argue that a different standard should apply regarding the Senate's advice and consent responsibilities, I believe that the Constitution's provisions of fairness and due process apply here as well, Flake said. I will vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh, Flake concluded. Kavanaugh and his wife Ashley Estes Kavanaugh hold hands as they leave the holding room after the hearing on Thursday. Trump tweeted his support for Kavanaugh just minutes after the 8-hour hearing came to an end on Thursday night. Democratic Sen. Joe Manchin exits after meeting privately with Republican Senators Jeff Flake, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski following the hearing. The four are considered the key holdouts that could block Kavanaugh's nomination since Ford has come forward. Both Julie Swednick, left, and Deborah Ramirez, right, have accused Kavanaugh of sexual assault. Ramirez claims that Kavanaugh placed his penis in front of her and caused her to involuntarily touch it during a party.